Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 60th anniversary of the WBC. It is also February. It is Black History Month, and we are gathered here this evening for the premiere of Return to Your Corner. Our producer and director of Return to Your Corner, Ashley Morrison, is in attendance. Ashley, will you please stand? Mr. Morrison will be addressing us this evening before we air the premiere. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please welcome to the microphone from the, formerly I should say, of the Brooklyn District Attorney's Office, where she served as the Chief of the Bureau of Crimes Against Children, Executive Assistant District Attorney, now serving as Chief Counsel for New York City Mayor Eric Adams. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Amadou.
Well, welcome everyone. Good evening. My name is Amadou, and I now serve as the Special Counsel to Mayor Eric Adams. And he's unable to be here tonight, but he asked me, please, to come by and share some sentiments. It's my honor to be here, especially for this most important event. And it's not all about just Black history. This is about world history. This is about sports. This is global. And this is an important story that we all must know. And it's wonderful that we are previewing this film during Black History Month. But when it comes to something like this, it's timeless, absolutely timeless. Our mayor oftentimes talks about the importance of turning pain into purpose. And that's exactly what we've seen over this time period. This past, 100 years? Like, this is amazing. So battling Siki suffered severe racism and discrimination globally. We still see that today, but it's the legacy of the impact of all that was done that we live by now. He stood up and he fought the fight, and he became both a champion and a trailblazer, but also for generations to follow. And despite his untimely death at 28, here we are. So on behalf of our mayor, Eric Adams, and also the chief advisor, Ingrid Lewis-Martin, this is a very important project, and we stand with it, and we want the world to see, because this man from Senegal has impacted all of our lives and for the future. Thank you very much.
At this time, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the microphone the Consul General of Senegal, Mr. El Hadji Indao.
It's an honor to be here again in New York to witness again an event where a great son of Senegal, battling Siki, Barak Bess, as he was born, the mayor to proclaim a day dedicated to the memory of late Barak Bess, and for the New York Athletic Club, of course, with the great generosity of the WBC, to come and again celebrate battling Siki with, and we're looking forward to it, the great documentary our friend Mr. Morrison has put together. Battling Siki, as you said, has stood for human values that we all share. Courage. He was a trailblazer. It wasn't easy at that time. I'm just going to end by really thanking again the WBC for all the efforts that you've done to make sure that the remains of late Barak Bess are moved to Senegal and to St. Louis, close to his family. On behalf of the government of Senegal, on behalf of the President of Senegal, Mr. Macky Sall, I would like to express my gratitude and the gratitude of the people of Senegal to the WBC and to the people of New York and this great country, but also to the world of boxing. Thank you.
It's a privilege at this time to call to the microphone the president of the WBC, Mr. Mauricio Sulaimán.
First, I would like to thank the New York Athletic Club. The hospitality to be in this room is something that is a highlight of my life. Arthur Mercante, the greatest referee in the history of the sport, had lunch right here before going to Madison Square Garden and be selected the referee for the greatest fight, Ali versus Frazier, 1971. To have the members of the club and to have so many different groups here tonight is something very special. We have the New York Police Department, we have the government of Senegal, the mayor's office. By the way, what a beautiful voice and words that you say. We have Showtime, DAZN, Sirius, media from all over the world. We have the New York State Athletic Commission with two great former commissioners that you will meet very soon, and fighters, champions, or heroes. We have Gleason's gym, we have Mendes. So it's so exciting to have so many people representing all that the boxing world has to give. Holt, he was a heavyweight champion in a series, but he's a heavyweight champion in life, and we're very thankful that you're here, Holt McCallany. And we have ring 8, we have ring 10. Our current champion, undisputed, she's coming, making the big entrance. How are you? And we also have the Hall of Fames, the International Boxing Hall of Fame, based in Canastota, New York. We have the New York Hall of Fame and the New Jersey Hall of Fame present, among many other personalities and friends. The WBC was born 60 years ago with the only expectation to change boxing, and we have done so. We brought 15 to 12 rounds a day before the fight, the weigh-in, which was a very complicated situation to make weight and fight. It was very dangerous. The gloves, the ring, there's so many different rules and changes that the WBC has done with the help of all the community in the sport. So it's a very special night. The film has taken, I don't know how many years to be put together. The pandemic hit, and then here we are tonight to celebrate the life of Battling Siki. So let's have a great night. Thank you so very much, and let's enjoy. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it is a privilege to call to the microphone author and award-winning filmmaker, the director and producer of Return to Your Corner, Mr. Ashley Morrison.
Now, I hope Jill will forgive me. I know I was told to make this really brief, but because we have the mayor's office here, I wanted to just mention something, because Siki died in 1925, and it was 16 days later that New York swore in a new mayor. Now, at the time, Tex Rickard had control of Madison Square Garden. And so there were a lot of the boxing managers got together to form the National Sports Alliance. And the mayor at the time was Jimmy Walker. And this was a quote that he said at that conference. And I think it's really relevant for us to remember today. Boxing is the only profession in the world where they don't fight behind each other's back, but face to face. They shake hands right off, fight it out according to agreed rules. The winner and the loser shaking hands again at the finish, face to face as they began. Where can you find anything like it, either in business or in politics? I think that's worth remembering, but I've got to keep it brief. I just want to say, first of all, thank you very much to Mauricio for supporting this project, and especially this night tonight. It is really special. Thank you so much. Thank you also to the Black History Month to have this film screening on Black History Month. That is incredibly special to me, especially having come from the other side of the world. I've got to say a big thank you to Jill Diamond, because I know I can't see where she is, but Jill, I know you've worked your butt off to make this happen, and I can't thank you enough. Yes, please give her a round of applause. I want to also thank James Mercante for his support, and the New York Athletics Club, and Roger Sulaimán, who again has made us so welcome here tonight. Thank you to you and all your staff for making this possible. And I think again it's worth remembering that when Siki was alive, and this shows how far the world has come, Siki would never have been allowed in here. But we've come a long way, and the fact that the story of his life is going to be screened in this club, I think shows how we're making the right steps. I'd also like to thank, thank you. I'd also like to thank my wife, who's down here kneeling, because she's been my rock for the last 8 years as we've been trying to make this film. She also filmed a great deal of the stuff in the film, and so Kwang, thank you so much for backing me through all of this. I also want to thank a gentleman who's not here, which is Dave Harper from Geodrill, which is a mining drilling company in Ghana. He was the major sponsor. He believed in this project. He backed it and basically has encouraged me the whole way. So he's not here tonight, unfortunately, but thank you, Dave, for your support. Now, how this project came around is I was asked to write Azumah Nelson's biography, probably the greatest African world champion. And when I was writing the book and I was watching the video of him winning the world title when he built Wilfredo Gomez, the commentator goes, and Azumah becomes the 6th world champion from Africa. And I was going, it's 1984. Surely there were more world champions than 6 before Azumah in 1984. So then I went back tracing it and trying to find out what happened, and found out that basically up until 1960, when a lot of the African nations started gaining their independence, all of the champions were basically recorded under their colonial power, as was Battling Siki, who is in the record books as French, even though he was the first ever world champion from Africa. And it's only the likes of Jean-Marie Breton, who you will see in the film, Peter Benson, who is here, who's written a wonderful biography of Battling Siki, and I urge you all to get it if you haven't read it. And also there is a musician in France called Mauro Gargano, who very kindly donated his album for us to use as a soundtrack to the film. And he has a suite to Battling Siki that he composed and put together. They are the ones who are kind of fighting for Siki in the corner. And the aim of the film was really to educate people about Battling Siki, not just as a boxer, but also as a man, and make people realize that he was a very special individual. But the thing that I really, really wanted is I want to see his world title return to Africa. The WBC returned his body to Africa. I think his world title needs to be returned to Africa. And I'm just going to finish with a quote from George Orwell, where he said, "The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their own understanding of their history." And to me, with Siki being a French world champion, that's what we're doing. He needs to be returned to Africa. Thank you.
Award-winning filmmaker, producer, and director of Return to Your Corner, Mr. Ashley Morrison, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to point out that the act that you saw towards the end of the film, the act that involved the WBC as well as the Mercante family in having Battling Siki's body, his remains, brought back to Senegal for a proper champion's burial, were acts that were recognized by the UN as well as the Office of the Mayor of New York City. So let's hear it for the WBC and the Mercante family. First, I'm introducing is the moderator for our panel this evening. He is the former New York State Athletic Commissioner and a current Sirius radio host. Here is Randy Gordon. The president of the WBC, Mr. Mauricio Sulaimán, is a former member of the Board of Governors here at the New York Athletic Club, and he is still an active member here at the New York Athletic Club. Please welcome Mr. James Mercante. Is the director and producer of Return to Your Corner, Mr. Ashley Morrison. Is the host of the DAZN boxing show from SiriusXM's Fight Nation. Here is Barak Bess.
When I watched Battling Siki, though, my heart went out to him. And I know that I have a lot of questions for the panel, and what a panel it is. And we're going to open this up. 2 questions from all of you that I'm sure that you have. And I would like to just start the questioning by asking Ashley Morrison, when did you first get the idea, the thought, where did it come from that you would do this incredible documentary on this just simply amazing man battling Siki?
Well, I think, as I said before, I first came across battling Siki when I was writing Azumah Nelson's biography, and I wanted to find out more about battling Siki, and that's when I bought Peter Benson's book, and I'm going to give it a pug. And Peter, thank you again. You were superb in the film, and I think you should stand up and take a bow, seriously. And Peter has said to me when we were making the film, he cares passionately about Siki as well, and I think you saw that in the film. And so, having read his book, I thought, you know, a book is one thing, but can we do anything more to try and raise the profile of this guy? Can we make the world understand, you know, who he was, the person he was? Because I think, as I said in the film, I think he's been much maligned. But the biggest thing for me was I wanted his world title returned to Africa. That was my motivation. I think it's been way, way too long. And I think we need to now accept that he was from Africa. The title needs to go back to Africa.
Did you totally abandon Azumah Nelson's biography just like that and then put him in the film too?
No, I didn't abandon it. I mean, the book came out, and I mean, Azuma's become a really good friend of mine. And it was interesting talking to Azumah because initially, when I asked him, I said, did you ever hear of battling Siki? And he didn't know about him. So, I mean, again, and this is the sad thing, and I'm probably going to get a little bit political here, but when the European nations went into Africa, they basically went about destroying the history of Africa. Because if you don't have history, you have no meaning. And so it was a deliberate ploy by them to get rid of all of the history that was in Africa. And so I think that is why, you know, Azumah had never heard of the guy, because that history wasn't there. And I think it's time we started restoring it.
Let me throw this question, Mauricio, and I know your dad had a lot to do with it. And near the end of his life, he was talking to you that he wanted you to continue this quest of his about battling Siki. So how long did you carry this, and was it something that stayed with you every single day since your father's passing a number of years ago?
Yes. If you saw the film, it was many kilos ago. It was much more.
That was like 20 years? Yeah.
I know, it was, I was a super heavyweight. I'm a heavyweight, but it was super heavyweight.
A little bit larger, yeah.
You know, my father had this passion to fight against discrimination, any form of discrimination, to fight against abuse of power, and to make sure that human dignity, human equality always had the heart of the WBC in any case that happened. And battling Siki, it took, I don't know how many years since the African Boxing Union began the process with Colonel Obumbu Fumi. He was a member of the Board of Governors, and he wanted the battling Siki situation to be resolved and bring the remains back to Senegal. And it took maybe 15 years before that day that my father and his father were talking in front of the young James Mercante, who said, I'll take it, let's go to the legal way, and he made it happen in 7 months.
Here's the question I thought about when I heard about this. I said, wait a minute. Okay, you reached out to the Mercante family, the great author Mercante and everything, and his oldest son, James, who we all know as an attorney, but wait a minute. James, I know you as a maritime attorney. Where do you come in? How did this come about, where you completely left the maritime business, if you will, and stepped over to having a champion sent back home?
Well, that's true. I do boats, not boxing. But as Mauricio said, his father Jose Sulaimán, who founded the World Boxing Council 60 years ago, when he talked, he drew you in, and he had such passion. So we were actually in the tap room here on the second floor before a fight in Madison Square Garden, and my father invited me along because he liked to hang out with me, and I loved Mauricio's father. So we were sitting in the tap room, and I'm half listening because all they're talking about is boxing. And Jose Sulaimán was talking about this fighter battling Siki, and his story. He was a great storyteller, Jose Sulaimán. So I started listening, and he said, we've tried on behalf of the African nation, the Senegal, to have this remains removed and shipped back to Senegal because they don't recognize his burial. Not the customs, the religious practices and customs weren't followed. So, I said, I think my father volunteered me because he thought I could do anything, So I said, look, I'll take on the legal challenge. My motto was break down doors, BDD. And I like winning cases. So to me, I just learned a lot in that documentary, which really had me choked up that I was involved in the history of this, that I was actually involved in boxing history, black history, World Boxing Council history, and now the New York Athletic Club history, that it really just hit me after watching that documentary. So what took politically and diplomatically, which was not succeeded in 70 years, I did in 7 months. And that was it.
Wow. Not sure how you did that, but congratulations. Ashley Morrison, we watched some incredible video. And again, this is stuff that I wish I had when I was at Ring Magazine in 1979, 80, 81, 82. There was no YouTube or whatever. I couldn't find any video. Where did you find that video?
A lot of it actually came from a Dutch company, believe it or not. They had a lot of footage of him. I had to pay for it. The one thing that was really good in the 8 years that we were trying to make it is because it had gone past a certain date, and I had hoped this film would be out pre-COVID, but then COVID kind of really stalled us for about 3 years, was suddenly in that 3 years, a lot of the footage became copyright free. So I was suddenly able to pick it up for no charge, which was really good, and that's why you actually had a little bit more footage than you probably would have done. There were a few companies that had footage. I will mention one, British Pathé News had some, but the amount of money they wanted to charge for 15 seconds was just absolutely ridiculous. And I said to my editor, he goes, this would be really good if we could have this. And I went, yeah, but at $1,500 for 15 seconds, forget it.
I would like to ask Barak Bess a question, and you know him. Everybody who gets DAZN streaming service knows him from DAZN Boxing Show, which he does with Ak. It's Ak and Barak. You guys do a great job. And as I was sitting there next to you, they were showing the battling Siki fight against Georges Carpentier, and I tapped Barak and I said, watch this. Because I knew that there was a very strange ending. And all I could picture kind of was you and I sitting at ringside doing the commentary on that. And I'd be screaming, Barak, what are they doing? They're stealing this fight from him. And that's exactly what we saw. We saw battling Siki win the fight, and then they tried their best to steal it from him.
This is why I love my job, because it forces me to dig deep into a person's history. And before this, I want to thank you, first of all, because before this, I didn't know who Battling Siki is. And of course, I knew guys like Jack Johnson, and you're right. They were actually stealing, but this was normal. This was normal at this time. And look at the things that we complain about today in boxing, Mauricio. The things we complain about in boxing now is nothing compared to back then. And he reminds me of Jack Johnson. Understand that black people get very emotional when they see stuff like this, and it's very, very, very hard.
Hey, this white guy got very emotional.
Very hard. Like, I didn't even want to, I didn't even want to come up after seeing this. I'm not going to lie. I had to put on a face when I came up here because it angers me to see that. You know,
I know. I felt that way. And I'm glad the lights were out because and I think Ashley Morrison might have seen me a few times wiping tears from my eyes. That's how
I say he
close
reminds me
I
of
got.
Jack Johnson, right? And it's not just because of the love of the white women. It's because he grew up in the same time. He was born when Jack Johnson first started. And so they were basically fighting around the same year, fighting against the same oppression, fighting against the same discrimination, fighting against the same hatred. And the difference between Siki and Jack Johnson is Jack Johnson was born in Texas, grew up in America. He knew America hated him, didn't really have any love for America, but because he knew he was hated. This guy, Siki, born in Senegal, but he was a Frenchman. Do you understand that he fought in the war because he wanted to? This man wanted acceptance from the French so much. That's the difference between him and Jack Johnson. And he never really got it. He never really fought for the country, then literally fought in the ring for the country as well, and always introduced himself as a Frenchman, and never got accepted, even after becoming a champion, even after putting his life on the line in the war and in the ring. Just a phenomenal human being.
Well put. And Ashley, I think, you know, as you make these kind of documentaries, you make it to tell a story, but it also, in this room, it reached out. It touched me. It touched Barak. I think it touched all of us. And in just a few minutes, we are going to open it up to your questions, and I am sure that you guys do have some questions here. And to Mauricio Sulaimán, you have grown up in boxing. I knew you when you were a little kid at the feet of your amazing dad, and you have grown up in this sport, and you've seen everything. And you also know the history of the world, of this country, and you see the height of racism. Here's a guy who just wanted to love and be loved. And it just seemed that anywhere he went, the media was ultra cruel to him, and he just couldn't get a break. And I do understand what he was going through at the end, because he was a world champion. He was, you know, I kind of wish he was around today training the way the better BFs train today and the B-Vols, because who knows? Battling Siki just might have been the best light heavyweight champion we have seen.
We need to appreciate and learn from the past, because it's the history that brings us to the present and the future. It's the life, what we went through in humanity. We have to understand where we are now and where will we go. To see the movie was, you know, it's very small clips. There's no so much. That image of when him is standing and smiling, you can see he's an adorable man. And it relates, I saw many expressions in the ring that I saw Mike Tyson and I saw Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Robinson in battling Siki. And the truth is, Mike Tyson, for example, he was a victim of society. He's a very nice person, but society got to him in a way that it destroyed his mind and his way of living. I cannot imagine what he went through in the 20s, of all those attacks and all those putting down whatever he did. He was never good enough for the rest.
And Ashley Morrison, can you believe that he was able to actually be as successful as he was, fighting off all that hatred 100 years ago?
I think it just tells you what a remarkable man he was. And I think, as Peter Benson said in the film, you know, people put him down, but he was a very intelligent individual. I mean, I forget, Peter, how many languages? I think he spoke 5 languages with it. Was it French, English, Dutch, and then he had his native tongue in Senegal as well. So, I mean, he was an intelligent man. And I mean, I remember there was a thing where he actually rattled off in one of the interviews, I think it was in France, where he said, you know, look, I'm not stupid, don't put me down. And that's the thing I think that was really sad, was people didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to hear that from a black guy in that era. And I think he deserves so much more respect. That's why I made the film. And as you can probably tell, I love the guy.
I'm going to introduce Mauricio Sulaimán, World Boxing Council President, and I would like to say, I know a lot of you got to meet some of the boxers that were here earlier today. Many of them are in training, so they had to leave before this part, and I know they'll be very regretful for not seeing this beautiful and emotional film. But we do have some boxers here. We have a fall boxer who we consider a boxer. Holt, come on up here. We have Vinny Paz, the Pazmanian Devil. Come on up here. Iran the Blade Barkley. Seamus, come on up here. And the unbelievable, undisputed Franchon Cruz Dizarn. Please come up here. Undisputed, and not for the least, but for the best, Mr. Michael Spinks. Heavyweight world champion, Michael Spinks.
Well, first, we're going to do a pledge. And when we go to Senegal for the crowning of the champion, all these champions that are here tonight are going to be invited to join the WBC to go to Senegal. So the first award is like when you build a great building, you put the first stone, right? The foundation. So this original replica, the miniature belt, is for you, Mr. Consul. So you take this until the moment that we go to Senegal and present it. So I ask Franchon to please present to Consul. It's a Medal of Honor for the producer, for the creator of everything, Ashley. So I kindly ask Arthur to please present it to Ashley, put it on, because he's a champion. Finally, just having the great honor to be here. Again, everyone who attended this magnificent event, let's give a great applause, because we're crowning the New York Athletic Club with the Champions of Champions belt, for this belt to be presented to John Dugan, the president of this great club. Thanks to one special woman that made this happen. She worked diligently for months. We'd like to give a reach out and shout out and applause to Cheryl from the New York Athletic Club, the executive assistant of the general manager. So please, Cheryl.